Another nail in my coffin! Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete here, and this is my series, Nails in a Coffin, where we learned that with great kills, there must also come great nails. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you are new here, please read what Nails in a Coffin is all about in the section down below. Thanks. I hope your new year is starting off great. So I figured to start off this new year, I'm going to cover some films I haven't covered yet on Nails in a Coffin. You saw the title, so for the next 2 months, I'm going to cover some excellent giallo films. These films are very important to the horror genre. They were slashers before slashers really were a thing. And I'm going to start my series off with A Blade in the Dark, directed by Lamberto Bava. One of his favorite things to do is give the audience visual cues by connecting characters and objects to the killer through color, specifically yellow, which is what gives this genre its name. Giallo is yellow in Italian. So I'm going to talk about those cues along with the victims, so sit back, relax, prepare yourself as we get ready to nail A Blade in the Dark. Let's get started with the film. Musician Bruno is hired to compose a soundtrack for an upcoming horror film. For inspiration, he rents a villa where he works on the score. Late one evening, while Bruno is working on this soundtrack, he hears a noise and he walks out in the hall to go investigate. And he's surprised by Katya. When she jumps out from her closet, she was frightened by a spider, I guess. So the two have some small chit-chat, and Bruno hasn't met this woman before, and he wants to know why she's in his villa. She tells him she lives close by, and she was close friends with Linda, the previous attendant of the villa. Well, he gets a phone call, and when he goes off, he goes to check on her because she used the restroom, but she's not there anymore. But he does find her diary, and when he reads it, Katya wrote that she found Linda's terrifying secret, and then Bruno pretty much just goes back to working on the soundtrack. We next see Katya outside. She's passing by some hedges, and somebody is watching her. This person attacks her, and he starts slashing her with an X-Acto knife, and she's backing up, screaming in fear. This unknown assailant chases her into the villa's basement. She's running through the halls looking for a place to hide, and she finds a place to hide but finds some unfinished drywall and mesh. The attacker does show up, and Katya is cornered. He starts to stab at her through the mesh on the wall. She's stuck, and I guess she can't move. And he continues to stab Katya, getting her in the stomach multiple times, and then finishing her off by slicing her throat. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Lamberto Bava likes to use the color yellow for his victims, and Katya was wearing a yellow skirt. She's getting her first set of nails for 2024, and she earned herself only one nail in the coffin. She chose a horrible hiding spot. She was hiding behind an open wall, standing behind mesh. Also, when she was being stabbed, she forgot she had arms or legs. She didn't even try and defend herself and get it away. She didn't move or do anything. She made a lot of mistakes here, and they all resulted in her getting only one nail in the coffin. Katya's housemate Angela is the next victim. She shows up at the villa when Bruno is still working on the soundtrack, and Angela hasn't seen Katya since last night, and neither has Bruno. Angela tells Bruno that Linda, the previous owner, used to let them use the pool. Bruno says, yeah, it's okay, go ahead. And she's very happy to hear that, and she goes to take a dip. While she's changing into her bathing suit, she is being watched by a mysterious person, and she takes a swim, enjoying her time. Although, while she's swimming, we see an X-Acto knife laying at the bottom of the pool. Angela sees this thing at the bottom of the pool, and she swims down to go pick it up. She's seen that it is an X-Acto knife. She picks it up, takes it out of the pool, and she looks at puzzles to see, why the heck would it be there? And she fully gets out of the pool, picks up the knife, and then goes back into the pool house. She puts the knife into a bag, and then she goes into the house to wash her hair. Angela is washing her hair, and when she reaches for a bottle of shampoo, she's stabbed in the hand with the kitchen knife. The killer then places a bag over Angela's head and starts to suffocate her. Her hand is pinned to the vanity, and the killer is banging Angela's head into the sink. The bag is filling with blood, and Angela is trying to break free, and she is able to use her hand, rip a hole in the plastic bag while she was pulling her hand free from the knife. This, however, is too little, too late, and her body goes limp over the bathtub, and the killer does slash her throat. This kill goes on for a while, and it was very well shot. And I'm going to give Angela, if you notice, was carrying a yellow bag, 2.5 nails in a coffin. She actually tried to get out of her predicament. She ripped a hole in the plastic bag, and she did pull her hand free out of the knife, which must have been excruciating. Just took a little longer than I would have liked, but I'm going to take into consideration the shock of being attacked, when she was washing her hair in the sink. At least she did something to try and survive, which is, a lot of people don't do that in slashers. And after covering well over 100 movies, I think she did better than most. I mean, if she reacted a tad bit quicker, I would have given her 3 nails in the coffin or more, but Angela's going to rest easy after her swim with 2.5 nails in the coffin. Up next is Giovanni. He's performing some work around the property. He's performing some service on a tank. It's an interesting color. While he's under the tank, a corpse's hand falls and hits him in the face. He quickly gets up, looks inside the top of the tank, and finds the body of Katia and Angela. He stares in shock for a moment, and then as he walks away, he's smashed in the head with the wrench by the mysterious killer, and then the killer continues to hit Giovanni in the head, beating him to death. Giovanni, who is working on the yellow tank, earned himself 1.5 nails in a coffin. I think he stayed at the two bodies way too long before reacting. Also, he was in the head a few times, but he never got his arms up to protect his head. The first blow didn't knock him out, so I think your instinct would be to cover up and try and stop the assailant from hitting you. Now, I've never been in the head with the wrench, but I can only assume if I was, the first thing I would want to do is cover up, get the person away from me, and stop them, not just kind of hold my hand around my face like Giovanni did. I 100% would have done more than what Giovanni did. And the only reason I'm going to give him that extra half a nail is what happens in the next death. Moving on, Sandra is the killer's next victim. She's at the villa hoping to speak with Linda, and she sees a bloody wrench on the ground and goes to pick it up. A not quite dead yet Giovanni, which is why I guess that extra half a nail, grabs her arm and she shrieks and backs away in fear. But it's too late for Giovanni because he does die from his wounds. Sandra positions her back against the wall and is gradually retreating towards the wall's far end, but that's where she's attacked from behind and garroted with the length of film strip. She's trying to get it off her throat, but she can't. Eventually, she does pass out and goes limp. The killer then drags her body across the ground violently and showing that Sandra is dead. Sandra died with a pair of yellow boots on, and I'm going to give her 2 nails in the coffin. She reacted as I think most people would if they were grabbed in the manner that she was by a dying man. She backed away from that threat, and then she was grabbed from behind and garroted. She did struggle to get free, but it was of no use, and at least she tried to use her arm, something you don't see a lot in slashers. I just really didn't see any grave or stupid mistakes that she made. She was in shock, she backed up to get away, and then someone surprised her from behind. So, up and down over here, I'm going to go down the middle and give her 2 nails in the coffin. Julia, Bruno's girlfriend, is walking through the villa and she finds Sandra's body buried under a pile of film reel. She doesn't run away as soon as she finds this. She does try and leave, but now she's actually trapped in the basement of the villa with the killer. She's slowly walking through the halls looking for a way out. She passes by a door, but she's tormented when the killer drops a bunch of yellow tennis balls at her. She walks off again and she's taking a breather, I guess, but the killer does show up behind her and Julia runs off. At least I think you can call that running since it's more like a trot, but she hides in a nearby closet. Now trapped in a closet, don't tell R. Kelly, Julia is further antagonized by the killer. They're calling out things to her that aren't making sense, similar to Billy in Black Christmas. Then a knife is stabbed through the door. Julia doesn't scream, she just kind of looks at the knife while holding the door shut. Then Bruno arrives home calling out to Julia. Julia hears this and bursts through the door, knocking the killer back, and then she runs towards Bruno. However, she does trip on the tennis balls from earlier. She picks herself up off the floor and runs down the hall, calling out to Bruno, with the killer right behind her. The killer does catch up and stab Julia through the back, out through her chest with the kitchen knife, and Julia does fall down and die before Bruno can get to her. I was going back and forth on this one, and I finally settled on 2 nails in her coffin. She lost points for not running or calling for help after she found Sandra. She was trotting at best when trying to get away from the killer, and then she just stared at her knife, and I'll give her that. Most likely, again, she was in shock. But I'm going to give her credit for busting through the door when she heard Bruno knocking the killer back a step. And she was running fast there. It's kind of hard to tell because the scene was slowed down for effect. But I feel like she waited too long to show some urgency here. As soon as she found the dead body, she should have ran until, she found a way out, screaming to get some help. Just found a dead body. But so there was good and bad with her, which is why I'm going to settle with 2 nails in the coffin. Bruno arrives and sees the killer standing over Julia, and they see Bruno and charge at him. Bruno quickly picks up a brick and smashes it into this person's head, knocking them out. Bruno then runs over to check on Julia, but unfortunately, it's too late. Bruno, still distraught, he looks over to where the killer should be, and he only sees a wig on the ground. He gets up and goes over to where the body was, and there's no one there. But then he's surprised when Tony, the property owner, dressed as Linda, jumps out and lunges at Bruno with a knife. Bruno was able to catch Tony's hands, and he's able to, maneuver the knife into Tony's stomach, stabbing him. Tony falls to the floor and slowly dies. Tony, who was wearing a yellow tie at the beginning of the movie, gets the finest set of nails for A Blade in the Dark. And I'm going to award him 1 nail in the coffin. If he really wanted to kill Bruno, he could have waited till Bruno walked past him, and then he could have jumped down and tried to stab Bruno in the back. Also, even if he did jump out at him, why telegraph your attack? He jumped out and yelled and went for a very easy to block overhand stand, almost like it was in slow motion. I also have to add, I never understand how people can stab themselves in the gut. Just because somebody else grabs your knife hand, I don't think the momentum's really going to move that knife all the way into your stomach. But we see that all the time in horror movies and action movies and whatnot. But I think this is another case where the villain's ego was part of their downfall. They just telegraphed too much of what they wanted to do, especially trying to kill Bruno at the end. And when it happens, there's a good chance a person like that is going to get only 1 nail in the coffin. We learned from Bruno that Tony was too insecure and childlike to stave off Linda, his alter ego. Since he couldn't kill his alter ego, he would murder other women out of rage and to prove he was really a man. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my nails in the coffin for A Blade in the Dark. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. The average nails in the coffin for A Blade in the Dark is 1.5 nails, which I think is on par for other slashers. I really did enjoy this movie. The movie score should be talked about more. I just feel it's that good. And I love the way Lamberto Bava used the color yellow throughout this film. Yeah, highly, highly recommended you check out this movie if you haven't done so already. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. All the normal stuff. That subscriber really helped me to keep me motivated to keep pushing out this content because I'm having a lot of fun. And you're not going to want to miss a video because there's new Nails in the Coffin out every single Friday. So, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you next week when I continue nailing some more Giallo films. Take care, stay safe, and be good to each other. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. And remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.